Hello and welcome to Paradise Wildlife Park. My name is Aaron and I'm joined by Dan, who's part of our reptile and invert team here at Paradise. We're in our reptile house, but we are in particularly going to be looking at some very special inverts. So Dan, can you explain to people what exactly an invert is?
So an invert is any sort of animal that has what we possibly has got exoskeleton, so their skeletal structures on the outside of the body, and they also don't have a spinal cord. So obviously, typically what you'll find is things such as spiders, flies, stick insects. Octopus is also a class of being invertebrates as well.
And what species of tarantula do you currently have in your hand?
So today what we've got Curly here. Curly here is our curly-haired tarantula. Now with her here, obviously she's as big as she's going to get, and she is a girl.
And how many species of tarantula are there, Dan?
So species of tarantula, you've got several thousand species of tarantula. Spiders-wise, you've got about 35,000 species of spiders as well. So it's quite a lot.
Whereabouts would this particular species sit amongst spiders in terms of, or tarantulas in particular, in terms of size?
So size-wise, Curly here, she's what we class being a medium-sized tarantula. There are some that are much bigger than her, and some that are even smaller than her itself.
And is she venomous?
So she is venomous, yes. So all tarantulas and all spiders are also venomous. But with her venom is not very potent, so it wouldn't cause much of a problem at all, much like a bee sting.
So in terms of, obviously, with these guys being featured in a lot of Hollywood films and obviously like scary stories, the venom's very overhyped for humans in that case then?
Very much so, yeah. So these guys here, it's very mild in comparison. Small bit of pain, but really nothing dangerous.
Now, even though she isn't able to kill humans, there are obviously spider species that can. Can you just give us a bit of an indication as to what kinds of species can do that to humans then?
Yeah, so there's 17 species of actually spiders that actually can cause obviously death in humans. But obviously 2 of those are the Brazilian wandering spider and the black widow as well.
Awesome. And whereabouts would this species naturally come from in the wild?
So Curly here should be found in South America, should be.
Awesome. And can you just give us a bit of an insight into some of the unique features that a tarantula has?
So tarantulas here, obviously they've got all these hairs all over their body. Now those hairs there are actually used as defence. So they actually kick them off into the atmosphere or towards a predator to actually scare them off.
And obviously one thing that is often spoken about a lot about tarantulas and spiders in general are their eyes. Where exactly are her eyes located for those that are watching?
So if you actually look at the top of her head, there's a lovely white little line that goes across the top of her body there. Just behind the middle of that, you'll see some sort of glistening. Those are her eyes there.
Now, obviously spiders have what we call an exoskeleton. What exactly does that mean?
So an exoskeleton basically is their bones are on the outside of their body rather than the inside.
And how much does this tarantula weigh?
So she currently weighs in at a massive 36 grams.
So not very heavy at all. Now, obviously with the exoskeleton being on the outside, does that mean that these guys have to be particularly careful?
They do, yes. So obviously with these guys, obviously being on the outside, these guys can obviously cause damage to it, and it can in some cases prove fatal, causing damage to the exoskeleton itself.
So that's what we're basically being so
very careful, yeah. So typically you'll look at if she was to fall 6 inches, she could potentially break her exoskeleton.
Right, okay. And what kind of animals would this species eat?
So typically she'll eat things such as smaller insects, so you're looking at things such as crickets, locusts, things like that.
Awesome. And obviously one thing that is kind of famous about spiders is the fact that females would eat the males after breeding with them. Is that the case for this particular species of?
Yes, so obviously all tarantulas, all spiders, if the male isn't quick enough, she will eat him. The reason behind that is obviously so she can actually put enough of the energy back into those eggs. So she can lay several hundred eggs in one go. So she has to use all that energy to be able to do that.
Awesome. So you said that this species is a medium-sized species of tarantula.
She is, yes.
What would a big species of tarantula look like?
So one almost twice the size of her, so she can get quite a much larger size.
Okay, awesome. Well, what we'll do then, if we pop her back, we'll then be able to show everyone at home exactly what kind of size species we're talking about.
So this one I'm about to get now, she's called Peaches, and she is a salmon pink bird-eating tarantula.
Alright. So we're not going to be hands-on with this one.
No, so she can be a bit feisty.
Any particular reason for that?
So she's a bit feisty, she is. So she'd also be the size that she is. If she was to bite you, it would hurt quite a lot just because of the size of the fangs.
And you said about her being a bird-eating spider, tarantula. I'm guessing the title kind of gives away what kind of animals
so
she would eat.
the largest animal she could potentially eat would be typically small birds, but their main diet consists mainly of a variety of insects. It does.
Awesome. And just how big is she compared to the species that we just had?
So she's roughly about the same size as my hand.
Okay.
Roughly. So
Awesome.
she's quite a large size. She is.
Awesome. All right then.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pop her down, and then I believe we've got some other species that we'll be showing you. What species have you got next for us?
So the next one, we've got one of our stick insects. So one of our stick insects, this is our thorny stick insect. So this one's a female. The reason why we can tell that she's actually a female is because if you look at the back of her abdomen, which I'll point to you just in a second, she's got a lovely sort of pointy, almost looking like a stinger effectively, which is this lovely bit just here. Now that has got a very big name, it's called an ovipositor. So what that basically is obviously it's how she puts her eggs into the ground, effectively. So she buries her eggs in the ground.
Nice. And how long does this species live for?
So typically these guys live for about 2 to 3 years, roughly at max sort of age. Obviously, the egg-wise, they're in obviously the egg stage roughly about anywhere to 3 to 4 months, and then obviously then they hatch out, and then obviously then they grow very quickly into adult size. Obviously they'll live to the sort of size. Now these guys here, obviously these guys come from New Guinea. You guys do. So with these guys here, they're actually obviously what we class as being more of a thorny stick insect, so they actually scare off predators by looking very dangerous as such.
I can understand that.
With obviously here, obviously you also find obviously in her sort of her thigh there as such, you see there's all sorts of little thorns there, which is how these guys get their name. But with them, however, though, obviously males, they're even more pronounced, and obviously they actually use it to defend themselves. However, their main actual defence is actually camouflage, so they actually completely disappear. So these guys look like a bit of bark, effectively, and they're all clumped together, effectively. So they completely disappear.
And what would these guys eat?
So these guys eat what we have got here. They've got leaves of different types of plants. So these guys actually prefer here bramble, which is like blackberry sort of stuff, things like that. So they'll eat all sorts of things these guys will, but they specialise in plants.
Awesome. And how many eggs would these guys traditionally lay?
So obviously, they could potentially lay up to 80 eggs in one go. That's the maximum sort of amount, but anywhere between 30 to 40 on average as such.
Okay. And does it take long for those eggs to hatch?
Roughly about 3 months or so as a max sort of thing.
And how heavy is?
So these guys typically weigh in roughly about 30 to 40 grams, roughly. So not very heavy again, but yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll pop her back inside, and then we've got another one that we're going to introduce you to. And are these guys fairly social insects?
So these guys live in groups, they do. So we currently have got a colony of anywhere up to about 36 adults. We've recently had some babies, so obviously we're not entirely sure the number of them. We're going through a count soon, and we'll find out exactly how many there are in there. But in here, we've got one of our black beauty stick insects. Now, in here, obviously, these guys are actually classed as being critically endangered. These guys are found in South America, and they're also classed as being poisonous. Now, there's a very big difference between something being poisonous and something being venomous. So something that's venomous is injected, something that's poisonous is actually ingested. So you'd have to eat these guys for it to be a problem. However, though, obviously you'd have to eat a fair amount of them with the size that we are. However, though, it works very well in defending of themselves. Obviously, the reason why we know that they actually use their poison to deter predators is they've actually got some very bright red wings. Now, these guys will only show those red wings if they get scared, so hopefully she won't be showing any of those red wings today with us. But with her though, obviously those red wings, she flashes them to scare off predators effectively, and it also notifies to them that these guys are actually dangerous.
And again, are these fairly social?
Again, these guys will live in large groups as well. Obviously, typically out in the wild, obviously they could live in large quantities, or anywhere up to 100 in some cases. But sadly, obviously, due to them being critically endangered, those numbers have declined, sadly.
And what are the reasons as to why this species are critically endangered?
These guys obviously mainly down to the case of deforestation. So these guys will live mainly on the trees down in Peru. And sadly, however, though, obviously due to deforestation of the rainforest, they've actually lost a large quantity of the trees they would normally live on.
And you can just see it's got some what looks like wings on the back. On its back. Could you just explain what those features are?
So those little red wings are basically there to defend themselves effectively. So they flash them very brightly to scare predators, to alert them of how these guys are poisonous.
Fantastic. And do they get much bigger than this?
This is about, might get slightly larger than this, but obviously typically this is roughly about how big they get.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much for introducing us to some of the inverts. Hopefully you guys learned a few things about some species that you may not have known much about prior to today. Obviously, we hope that everyone who's been watching this has been staying home and staying safe, and of course listening to all of the government's advice with regards to COVID-19. Obviously, the coronavirus is affecting all of us. It's very difficult for us at the wildlife park, especially just because we are still essential workers, but obviously there's no income to the zoo, so that means that obviously it's making things a bit harder to take care of the animals that we are taking care of in that sense. So if anyone is interested in helping us in any way, please visit our Just Giving page. Just go to justgiving.com and then Animal Support Fund, or to our website pwpark.com if you're willing to donate. But in the meantime, please stay home, stay safe, and of course we look forward to seeing you when this coronavirus pandemic is over. Take care, guys.